Let's talk about how to get rid of your belly fat. But if we just kind of step back for a second and just look at the purpose of fat, it's a survival mechanism. It helps to store fuel, but it has a limitation to how much it can store. So once it gets to a certain point, then we have a backup system. It's a plan B, where you start storing fat around the organs, and that type of fat is called visceral fat. Now, when visceral fat goes on too long and you don't use up that energy, then that type of fat becomes sick, it becomes damaged, and it can no longer readily take in fats for storage or even sugar in its conversion into fat. So we have a third type of fat situation. Okay, this is the fat that then spills over inside your organs. It's the fat inside your liver. It's the fat inside your pancreas. It's the fat inside your muscle. So by the time you have ectopic fat, which is fat in the liver, that's actually pretty bad. That's not a healthy situation. But on a positive note, it's the fastest thing to fix because when we reverse the process, we can get rid of the ectopic fat first, then the visceral fat, then the subcutaneous fat. And so is it just a matter of too many calories that destroys the machine? Not necessarily. It's the type of calories that destroy this machine. Number one, alcohol will destroy the machine for sure. This is why chronic alcoholics have a pot belly and they have a lot of visceral fat and they definitely have a lot of liver fat. Now, the next thing you need to know about is fructose. Now, there's a big difference between the fructose in fruit versus the fructose in high fructose corn syrup. That goes into the body and just creates serious damage to your metabolism, including the liver, because it's a refined product. It's an ultra-processed food that doesn't have the protection. So when you eat these carbohydrates without those cofactors, as in the ultra-processed food calories, you really starve off this biochemical machine. And this is really what causes the system to break down, because over 83% of the food calories in the grocery store are ultra-processed food calories. The next thing I want to share with you is something that doesn't involve food. It involves stress. Chronic stress can also activate the body and turn things into sugar inside your body. And Cushing syndrome is created by a high level cortisol. That's the stress hormone. Even getting less than 5 hours of sleep a night can increase cortisol and worsen more visceral fat. Steroids, also antibiotics, antidepressant medication, anti-anxiety medication can also increase visceral fat. Now, another uncommon thing that people don't realize is the seed oils in our diet, which make up like 25 to 30%, directly contribute to damaged mitochondria, that machine that controls our metabolism. Because even if you look at the past 2 or 3 or 4 decades and you look at the trends of sugar, they're not nearly as high as the seed oils. There's much more contribution to visceral fat from seed oils than actual sugar. So this is another thing that unfortunately people have been taught that seed oils are heart healthy when in fact they're heart unhealthy. They go through an industrial refining process, and when you consume them, they're just very damaging to the system. And then, of course, you have sugar and starch. But the damaging effect from sugar and starch happens when you refine sugars and starches through this whole industrial process. So glucose syrup, dextrose, these are all sugars that are highly refined. Starch is basically a sugar. I'm talking about maltodextrin. I'm talking about modified food starch. And they're very deadly for your metabolism, and they contribute to a lot of visceral fat and damage within the machine. So what do we do as the first step? Eliminate ultra-processed food calories, sugar, starches, and seed oils. If you combine the seed oils with the sugar, oh my goodness, you're going to really severely damage that metabolism because your system is already gunked up. It's what's called metabolically inefficient. And a lot of these ultra-processed food calories don't have a lot of protein in them. The protein is what satisfies you. Without protein, you're just going to want more and more and more. You'll keep eating them until you're satisfied with protein. Well, that's never going to happen. Like animal proteins, especially red meat, are so dense in the cofactors. I'm talking about the trace minerals, the minerals, and the vitamins that you need to actually metabolize. Red meat, fish, eggs, all will help you fix this problem. Another thing that people don't realize that diet sodas are just as bad as regular sugar sodas. So don't think you're helping yourself by taking a diet soda. And I just have to say this one last point. Just because something says low carb or keto friendly does not mean it's really keto friendly. So you must read the labels. As far as exercise goes, what type of exercise is best for belly fat? Well, let's just first talk about high intensity interval training, because it's short doses of high intensity with rest versus a sustained long-term run or a moderate amount of intensity on a treadmill, and that can even increase cortisol. So if you do high intensity interval training, you'll be more successful with visceral fat. But also other things like weight training are going to build up more muscles, so then you can actually burn more of these calories. You need muscle to have this whole thing work. But then we get to walking. Walking is very good for belly fat loss, but not just a little bit of walking a day, like doing longer walks, because walking also reduces stress. So this is why I like the combination of high intensity interval training with walking on the off days. I found that if I don't walk, I don't sleep as well. And I also take B1. A good source of B1 is something called nutritional yeast. You can put it on your salad, make sure it's unfortified, and that can greatly help reduce stress and increase sleep. Next thing on the list is vitamin D through a lot of sun. Getting more sun will help you lose more weight. Just don't go out into the point where you're burned. Go out to the point where you start developing a tan and getting more vitamin D. And in those days that you can't get sun, just take vitamin D as a supplement, at least 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3. But don't forget about magnesium, because magnesium also allows vitamin D to work. Magnesium also helps you sleep. It's also very important in making sure that the mitochondria works well, since magnesium is one of the top cofactors or the helper things involved in that mitochondrial biochemistry. And the last point is fasting, and this is really important, and this is going to help you to speed things up greatly, because every time you eat, you trigger insulin, and the more insulin you have, the less you're going to lose. So if you can include intermittent fasting and only have 2 meals, lunch and dinner, and then kind of graduate maybe even to 1 meal for a while, that would probably be very, very smart versus all the snacking that people do. And even if it's healthy snacking, probably not a good idea. But this is a way to actually fix the metabolism to the point where now you have the ability to use fuel, because now you're matching an environment of how your body has evolved. And the body has not evolved with all this available food and snacking and eating constantly 24/7. Now the biggest question is, what are the details of what do I eat? For that information, watch this right here.